Have you ever wondered what powers every single activity in our bodies? From the blinking of your eyes to the beating of your heart, every movement, every thought, every breath you take is fueled by a remarkable source of energy within your cells. That's where adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, comes into play. Often referred to as the energy currency of life, ATP is a molecule that captures chemical energy obtained from the breakdown of food molecules and releases it to fuel other cellular processes. It's like a biological battery, storing and providing energy whenever and wherever it's needed. Imagine a busy city with lights, machines, and people, all buzzing with activity. Now picture ATP as the power grid that keeps that city running smoothly, tirelessly supplying energy to every corner. Intriguing, isn't it? So it turns out the answer to our opening question is this tiny molecule called ATP. How does this tiny molecule get made, you ask? Well, let's dive into the beautiful process of ATP synthesis. This fascinating journey involves a three-step process: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. Each step plays a vital role in creating this life-giving molecule. First stop, glycolysis. This process begins in the cytoplasm of the cell, where glucose, a simple sugar, is broken down into two molecules of pyruvate. Along this journey, two ATP molecules are produced. Now you might be wondering, wait, aren't we trying to make ATP here? You're right, but consider this initial ATP production as the kickstart energy needed to fuel the rest of the process. Next we venture into the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, where the Krebs cycle occurs. Here the pyruvates from glycolysis are further broken down, releasing high-energy electrons. These electrons are captured by carrier molecules known as NAD+ and FAD, converting them into NADH and FAD2. These carriers will play a crucial role in our final step, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Finally, we enter the electron transport chain where the magic happens. Those high-energy electrons from NADH and FAD2 are passed along a series of proteins. As the electrons move, they create a flow of protons across the mitochondrial membrane. This flow, or proton gradient, drives the production of ATP, and voila! From one glucose molecule we get a grand total of 30 ATP molecules. But don't forget about water and carbon dioxide. They're the byproducts of this process and are just as essential. Water provides hydration, and carbon dioxide, believe it or not, helps regulate our body's pH balance. So, in essence, ATP synthesis is a delicate dance of molecules carefully choreographed in the grand theater of the cell. It's a continual process happening every second in every cell of your body, powering everything you do. And that, in a nutshell, is how ATP is synthesized in our cells. So, we have ATP, but how does it release energy? Let's delve deeper into the inner workings of this fascinating molecule. Adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, releases energy through a process known as ATP hydrolysis. This process is initiated by the introduction of water, hence the term hydrolysis. Now you might be wondering, how does adding water to something result in energy release? Well, it's all about the bonds. ATP consists of adenosine and 3-phosphate groups. Now these phosphate groups are key to ATP's energy storing capability. They're like three tightly coiled springs just waiting to unleash their energy. The trick is in the breaking of the bond between the second and third phosphate groups. When water is introduced, it reacts with ATP, breaking that bond between the second and third phosphates. This reaction is energetically favorable, meaning it releases more energy than it requires to happen. This released energy is then available for our cells to use. The bond-breaking process doesn't just happen randomly though. It's facilitated by a group of proteins called ATPases, which act like molecular scissors, snipping that bond and releasing the energy stored within. This reaction also results in a byproduct, a molecule called adenosine diphosphate, or ADP, and a free phosphate group. But don't worry, these aren't waste products. They're actually recycled back into the ATP production process, but that's a story for another scene. So, to sum it up, ATP releases energy through the process of hydrolysis, where water is used to break the bond between the second and third phosphate groups. This breakage releases energy that can be used by our cells for various functions, from muscle contraction to nerve impulse propagation. And that's the beauty of ATP. It's a compact, efficient energy storage system that releases just the right amount of energy when and where it's needed. It's not too much to cause damage, nor too little to be ineffective. That's the secret to ATP's power, a simple chemical reaction that releases just the right amount of energy for our cells. What happens after ATP releases its energy? This question leads us into the fascinating world of energy recycling within our bodies. When adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, gives up its energy, it loses one of its phosphate groups and transforms into adenosine diphosphate, or ADP. This transformation is like a tiny explosion, releasing energy that our cells use to perform their functions. But the story doesn't end there. You see, our bodies are incredibly efficient. They don't just discard the ADP after it's been used, instead they recycle it. ADP can be converted back into ATP through a process called phosphorylation. This involves the addition of another phosphate group to the ADP molecule. And the best part? This process can happen over and over again, creating a continuous cycle of energy use and renewal. So why is this recycling process so important to us? Well, consider this. The human body contains around 250 grams of ATP at any given time. However, it needs to produce around 200 times that amount every single day to sustain all its functions. That's a lot of ATP. Without the ability to recycle ADP back into ATP, our bodies would need to create all that ATP from scratch. This would require an enormous amount of energy and resources, which would be far from efficient. Instead, by recycling ADP back into ATP, our bodies can continually reuse the same molecules, saving energy and resources. This recycling system is also incredibly fast. It allows our bodies to rapidly respond to changes in energy demand, ensuring that our cells always have the energy they need to function properly. In a nutshell, the ATP-ADP cycle is an ingenious system of energy conservation and reuse. It is a testament to the marvel of biological efficiency, highlighting how our bodies are designed to make the most out of every resource they have. And so, we see that the ATP-ADP cycle is not just an interesting piece of biology, it's a life-sustaining process that keeps us going every single day. The ATP-ADP cycle is a perfect example of nature's efficiency at its best. Why is ATP so important? Well, imagine you're a car. To function, you need fuel, right? In the world of biochemistry, ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, serves as that essential fuel. It's not just important, it's absolutely vital. You see, ATP is involved in every process that requires energy in some form. Think of it as the universal currency of energy in biological systems. It's used in everything from the contraction of muscles, to the transmission of nerve impulses, to the synthesis of proteins. Let's dive a bit deeper. When you flex your muscles, ATP is there, providing the energy for muscle fibers to contract. Without ATP, your muscles would simply fail to work, leaving you unable to move. And it's not just about movement. ATP also powers the transmission of nerve impulses. These impulses are the messages that your brain sends to every part of your body, controlling everything from your heartbeat to your sense of touch. Without ATP, these messages wouldn't get sent, and your body wouldn't be able to function properly. But ATP doesn't stop there. It also plays a key role in cell division and protein synthesis. These processes are essential for growth, repair, and maintenance of all living organisms. Without ATP, cells wouldn't be able to divide, and proteins, the building blocks of life, wouldn't be synthesized. What makes ATP truly remarkable, though, is its universality. It's not just humans or animals or even plants that rely on ATP. Every living organism, from the smallest bacteria to the largest whale, uses ATP as its primary energy source. And that's precisely why ATP is so important. It's not just a piece of the puzzle, it's the glue that holds the puzzle together, the powerhouse that keeps life running. And it's not just our life, it's all life. Without ATP, life as we know it simply wouldn't exist. So to recap, we've delved into the fascinating world of adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, unearthing its role as the powerhouse of life. We've explored how ATP is synthesized, a complex process that happens within the mitochondria, our cellular power plants. We've also examined the energy release mechanism of ATP, a process that allows us to perform everything from basic bodily functions to high-intensity actions. We've discussed how ATP is a recyclable energy source, constantly being broken down and rebuilt to keep us moving and living. And of course, we've emphasized the crucial roles ATP plays in our bodies, from muscle contractions to nerve impulses. Every single function in our bodies relies on this tiny yet mighty molecule. It's an intricate dance of biochemistry and physics that keeps us alive and active. The next time you're wondering what's powering your body, remember, it's all thanks to ATP.